you're here. Okay, here we go. All right, so we're still learning about the Mashiach, and last week we started on the beginning of this great battle that everybody talks about, and that's the battle of Gog and Ma-Gog. Now, it's very interesting. If you would like go on the street today, I'm just kind of curious. You know, the world always talked about something called Armageddon, like the last big hurrah in the world, and you know what I mean. There's so many players right now that are very rogue. You know what I mean? Like North Korea has a atom bomb, right? Nuclear weapons. I think India has, right? Israel has, you know, like the Arab countries that have, Russia has, America has, like, so there is this like, you know, when there's a lot of tension in the world, which you kind of feel like now, like it's a very funny place right now, right? Like Ukraine and Russia are fighting, and the Ukrainians accidentally shot a missile into Poland and killed 2 people. And it was a defense missile. But until that was clarified, what was the news saying? Does anybody know? Anybody know? Anybody hear this piece of news? Okay, I think I watched too much news. Okay, so what the news was saying was that Russia had attacked Poland. Okay, and the Ukrainians were really adamant about it. Like the Russians are attacking Poland. What would be the benefit to that? Because Poland is a NATO country. So if, God forbid, the Russians really were attacking Poland, that could start an incredible war. And thank Hashem, they found out it was the Ukrainians. Okay, and it was a defense missile that fell into Poland. You know what I mean? It's probably, you know, blew up in the air and then fell down. So you know what I mean? So Baruch Hashem, you know, that didn't cause any big nuclear realities. But you know, like with everything that's going on, like the social justice issues, and also just this whole new, you know, reality, the kinds of things that people are doing, the immorality, the this, the that. Like if you just like interviewed the people on the street, there would be people who say, you know, I really do feel very anxious. Look at the state of the world. It could be coming to an end. There are people who would really feel that way. So when I'm going to tell you this story of Gog and Ma-Gog, I want you to realize, I think 3 things. One is that as it doesn't sound good. Like when I tell you this, it doesn't sound like a happy reality, but it is a happy ending. Okay. Now to be part of the happy ending, right? Part of the happy ending, you would have to stay very connected. Like, you know what I mean? At the end of days will be the test of the most important mitzvah of all mitzvahs, which really is, honestly, they say if you took 613 mitzvahs, you could put them into one. And that is a tzaddik lives by his emunah. And a tzaddik is every one of us. Because what's a tzaddik? What's the definition of a tzaddik? Who remembers? Anybody remember? A person who falls 7 times, but keeps getting up. That's the definition.
Gail,
Mm-hmm.
I just put a song on my app today. It's from his name's Shapiro, and that's what he sings about, getting up.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know that song?
Yeah, it sounds beautiful. You'll send me later, but that's what it's about. That's what really it's about. But that emunah of falling and getting up, it has to be really demonstrated. If you really do believe in Hashem, then you will try your very best to do what he asks, right? If you really believe in what he's saying, right? You believe that there's all this stuff going to happen, then you're going to make your efforts, right? That's how I know you really believe something. Belief is not just in your words, it's also in your actions. Like, you know, when people go around like, I love you, like, you know what, it's cheap. Like, I hate to say it, you know what I mean? But let me see it in your actions. Like, for you to run around going, I love you, and then meanwhile you hurt me all the time and you say abusive things and blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? That's not really you love me, right? And when I say I love you, it means I am making the effort to understand you. So I love you doesn't mean I love you on my terms. Right? You get it? Loving someone is loving them on their terms. And that's what it means when you say, I love Hashem and I believe in Hashem. You love him on his terms, not on your terms. So that's kind of what the struggle of this milchama is going to be. Now, I'm only getting partially through this Gog and Ma-Gog. Okay, so I'm going to give you the sources. which are, many of them are in the prophets, like in the Tanakh, right? The Torah, Nevi'im, and Ksuvim, like the Torah and all of the prophets and the writings. Okay, so these are where these ideas are coming from. Now I'm going to ask you a question. Why would God tell us all about this? Why does God want you to have the heads up on the end of days? What does he want you to know? Like, there will be these wars and you got to hold on tight and let me tell you what's happening. Why does Hashem, care to tell us these things? Like, in a way, so we wouldn't know, and then boom, it would happen. What's the purpose of letting us know? Anybody have any ideas?
Because he loves us.
Okay, because he loves us. Why is he telling you?
To do tshuva.
Okay, so what Leora said. Okay, like Hashem's trying to tell you, you know what? This stuff can be avoided. You can go through it a lot more successfully if you are prepared. Like, in other words, God's saying, I'm going to come at the end of days. Here's the test. He's not saying, hello, pop quiz. You remember those teachers that would walk in and go, okay, pop quiz. Let's see who could get, if you don't get 10 out of 10, you're going to get 3 marks off on your report card. Do you remember those types? So what was the problem with a pop quiz? Why were you like a little bit mad when a teacher came in and said, okay, surprise, like, why don't you like that?
Because we were not ready for it.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's like a set, you're not ready. You don't feel ready for it. Just like a sudden setup. It's like really uncomfortable. So Hashem is saying like this, I didn't create this world for a joke. Okay, I didn't create this world for no purpose. I didn't create this world so man could have a freebie and live on his island and destroy everything in sight and become a narcissist. That's not what I just made this world for. So I give you the Torah, I give you the instructions, I tell you what to do. No. This is what I want, and I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait for you to get on board. But if you don't get on board, there are consequences. And at the end, this is the end. I won't let it go forever like this. It will have to come to an end, right? And in that end, the world will understand once and for all why I created it. And if you want to be part of the why I created it, great. If you don't, you won't. And if you spent your time going, I hate God and get away from me and I can do what I want and I don't need you, then you will pay the consequence of that. Do you understand? So it's not like, this isn't like a meanie, breaking terrible wars and destroying the world. It's not that. These are the consequences of your actions. You were in my house and I told you how to be in my house. You chose not to be in my house this way. Then you will see what will happen because of what you did. It's not because of what Hashem did. It's because of what you chose to do. Okay. So that's like important references to keep this together, right? And what do we also know? That all of humanity is Hashem's children. So all of humanity, right, has a role to play. So let's say today you see these people who, throw people in the subway into the trains. Like, people are like robbing and stealing and thising and thating, like, regardless of how much they know spiritually, there is a concept of just basic morality. Do you know what I mean? There's basic morality that man understands. Like, you cannot live in a world where you randomly can kill people. True or false? Right. Like, that's not excusable. It's not excusable.
Yeah. The world we live in, the Judeo-Christian world, those are the regulations. But if you go outside of that, if you go to a lot of countries, they don't have that moral level that we do.
But the reality is, something like murdering someone doesn't take a genius to understand that you can't function. I don't know, maybe, I think it's just, if they do it, it's just pure power hunger narcissist. Saying a healthy person.
It's lack of respect for another human
anything,
being, which
yeah,
some,
like human life,
societies are so
they're so vulgar.
crowded, and
Yes,
man
yes.
doesn't mean anything anymore.
Yes. Okay, so Hashem is saying, you would have to know at least that much. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, there's certain basic instincts, basic understandings that we have to know.
Something like a reflection on Noah's Ark.
It's like a reflection, right? It's a reflection on, like Hashem said, I destroyed the world once, and you know what I mean? And you need to know there's basic understandings in life. Like they're basically, you can't have a society. It would just kill itself out. Do you know what I mean? These are not societies that can perpetuate. Do you know what I'm trying to say? So it's not like it takes such a big genius. So in the end of days, who did we say? It's interesting. Who did we say like will be the players? Who are going to be the three players in the end of days? Like the real major players in this war called Gog and Ma-Gog. Does anybody remember? Does anybody remember? Who's the major players in this? Who?
Russia, China.
Okay, so it looks like Russia and China, but who do they represent? Okay, it's very interesting.
Oh,
So
it's going to be Russia
The
and
Western syllabus.
yeah, so it'll be Western
Persians.
civilization,
Persian.
Western civilization against the Islamic world. In the end, those two are going to be the biggest, clash. Okay, so let me explain to you. So I
And then
watched
they're
the
gonna-
news again today. Okay, so now Bibi Netanyahu just wrote a new book. It's called Bibi and his memoirs. It's the memoirs of Bibi Netanyahu, and they were interviewing him today. Mark Levine was interviewing him today and just asking him about his life, and how do you see the world stage? So he said something very important. He said the world has to be very careful, because if you let rogue countries, like silly rogue countries that really have no, moral reality, who are enemies of peace, own nuclear weapons, you're asking for your own destruction. So he said, so for instance, North Korea, right? No one stayed on top. North Korea is a small country with a whack job, who is the leader of the country, who sends out missiles all the time to Japan and to South Korea, and always like threatening people and threatening America, and playing with nuclear bombs and like just this dangerous stuff. Okay, it's not safe. So he said, since he was in politics, Bibi Netanyahu, who did he try his best to make sure did not develop nuclear weapons? Iran. Okay. He said, we have to be very careful with a country like Iran. He said, I want you to understand, like he was so smart the way he said it. When they chant in the streets, they chant death to Israel and
Death to America.
yes. He said, like, what do you think you're doing? Like, you're going to allow them to have, nuclear weapons. These are, what are they called again? The leaders.
Ayatollah.
Yeah, ayatollahs. They're ayatollahs. They're completely, their whole
Warped.
essence to live, their whole Weltanschauung is to kill the infidel and the devil. And he said it so well to him. He said, just want to let you know that Iran looks at Israel, we're the little devil, but you in America, you're the big devil. And he's right. He's 100% right. Okay. So in the end, these countries are going to go, right? And they're going to be vying for power. So it's very interesting. I told you it's a very interesting medrash that says that when Esav was alive, right, and he was so disgusted by Yaakov, like Esav was a narcissist and Esav was a power-hungry person. And that's really what Western civilization represents. It's all about power, right? It initiates from Rome. Rome was the conqueror of the world. That's the way these people are, like, work. And if you do not follow their dogma, what happens to you? You're burned on the cross. Do you understand? Like, none of these like religions are what we would call peaceful religions. The only religion that doesn't bug anybody is
Judaism.
We don't try to convert you. We don't even want to convert you. Like, you just do your 7 Noahide laws. Let us do our mitzvahs, and together we can live in peace. That's the way the Jew looks at it. You will go to heaven. We will go to heaven. We're not imposing, these things on you. Okay. So Edom wants control, right? Edom is very full of itself. Rome was full of itself, right? When Titus, right, who was the emperor who destroyed the second Beis Hamikdash, he didn't just fight against the Jews. Who did he also fight against? God himself. Okay? God himself. You have to appreciate that, right? I think I told you this story. You know this story? Like, he conquered the temple. He went into the Holy of Holies. He took a prostitute with him. He slept with her in the Holy of Holies. He took a knife. He threw it into the paroches. The paroches squirted blood, and he went, "Yay, I killed the God of the Jews." Okay. Then he was on a boat. Do you remember this? He's on a boat going back to Rome with all this stuff. Hashem starts this whole giant, hurricane, and the boat is going to sink. And he yells out, "Okay, God, I get it. The only place you're strong is on the water. That's why that's where you drowned all the Egyptians. So you're just powerless unless you're on the water." So then Hashem said, "Oh, really? Okay." So he lets the sea calm down. He gets to Rome. He gets on the land. And the minute he got in, a gnat flew up his nose and went into his brain, and it grew to be the size of a bird. He was tormented his whole life. Okay. That was like Hashem went, "Really? Okay. I can control a teeny tiny bug and destroy you in a terrible way. Like, don't do that." So Esav hates Yaakov, right? He hates, like, what's the biggest beef of the non-Jewish world about the Jews? What do they hate the most about us? Okay. But it's like, we bring morality, yes, but why do they hate us even more than that?
Because we're successful.
Okay, because we're successful more than that.
Because
We're
God
chosen.
listens to
We're the
us.
chosen.
Okay, because, yes, who said it? That big word.
Chosen.
Chosen people. They hate that. Okay, you don't appreciate that. What they've been trying to do all these millennia is destroy that reputation of us as the chosen people. When the Jewish people came back to Israel, the Pope had a heart attack. Okay, do you understand? Because Christianity, their greatest proof that we were no longer the chosen people was that God threw us out of Israel and we were exiled and tormented forever. So to them, it was yes. Okay, like we are, number one. Okay, so now there's a great jealousy here and a great arrogance. Okay, so in the end, I mean, does anybody look at the American world right now and see their arrogance? Their arrogance is so like they'll deny reality for their own covet. You know what I mean? Like people are suffering from inflation and suffering from gas prices and suffering from, shortages. And it's all, the economy's great. You speak to the president of the United States and he says, the economy is great. Why? Because as long as I got the power and as long as I'm here, everything is great, Okay, so you got those whack jobs. Okay. And then you now have Yishmael, which really Yishmael, the Torah tells you, is a very wild, lustful nation and doesn't like to be controlled. So Esav hated Yaakov. Really, that's their only mutual reality, is the hate for the Jew. So Esav hated Yaakov and he went to Yishmael. He said, "Look, I don't want to kill Yaakov while Yitzchak is alive. I don't need to sully my hands like that. I want to do a partnership with you. You kill him, and then we'll split all of his, inheritance. We'll split the inheritance, okay?" So Yishmael was like thinking about it, and the Torah tells you, the Midrash tells you that Esav like whispers under his breath, you know what I mean? "You'll kill Yitzchak, and then I'll kill you." Okay, so this is kind of right. So in other words, they've both been trying to kill Yaakov, thinking that they're going to inherit it all, and then at the end they'll kill each other. Do you see what I mean? And one of them will become the big boss. So that's kind of this idea of this milchama of Gog and Ma-Gog is first going to be this idea of Edom, like Esav, Western civilization, fighting against the Muslim world. And you could see it, like, you know what I mean? Like, because the Muslim world is slowly taking over Europe, right? And one day, like, the Europeans are going to have to stand up and do something, or they will all be under Sharia law. Okay. And if at the end, Biden is stupid enough to give Iran the money and Israel cannot keep, Israel, Baruch Hashem, right now has been, blowing up their nuclear plants. If it wasn't for Israel right now, Iran would already have had a nuclear weapon. We have to be so grateful that Hashem, gave the Jewish people the koyach to stop them, right? Right? Okay, so for us, like I'm telling you this stuff and you're like, I don't know what she's talking about. I don't have a pistol and I don't have a gun and how am I going to help? So the way you're going to help is the only way a Jewish person can fight. The only way a Jew can fight, like even with Israel, which is so mighty, but it's because it has Torah and it has tefillah behind it, okay? And chesed. So if we want to save the world, then we personally have to make the 3 pillars that the world stands on stronger. You want to survive this war of Gog and Ma-Gog. It's not going to help you to buy, a special radio or a generator. People who think they're going to build their houses out of, concrete and steel. And if a nuclear weapon drops on the world, it's going to be fine for them, like for maybe 2 minutes. You know what I'm saying? But we're going to have to, like, if we have to fight this Gog and Ma-Gog reality, then Hashem would say to us, you want to not see the world blow up because I can send Mashiach anyway. I don't have to send Mashiach ben Yosef to die in a war. I could send Mashiach just like this without any, catastrophe all over the place, right? Or chaos all over the place. So you as a person, we as an individual, we're saying, I believe with my whole heart, I yearn for this Mashiach. So Hashem says, really? So put some skin in the game. Right? I can hardly wait for this and this to happen. So help make it happen. Do you know what I mean? I can hardly wait till I this. I can hardly wait till I that. So people would say, instead of waiting, start doing something to make it come. So one of the things that you would start to do, like all of us, like what we're doing right now, we are learning Torah. And Hashem is saying, I'm giving you the heads up. Okay, I'm giving you the heads up. If it's not going to be for you, it might be for your kids, or it might be like today. Danili was sitting with me and he said, Bubby, Mashiach has to come in 200 years. So it looks like I'm not sure you'll be there. You should feel good because your great-great-grandchildren will be there. He's right. Now, how am I going to ensure that my great-great-grandchildren are there? That they're going to be on the right team. How am I going to ensure that? I'm asking you now.
Keep teaching them Torah.
Yeah, you're going to have to talk it all the time. You have to say, oh, this happened. Oh, Mashiach. Oh, Hashem. I have Amunah. I believe. It's very interesting. Rav Elchanan Wasserman, he asks a good question. He says, like, how come when somebody is 12 and 13, suddenly, like Hashem says, okay, you are so good. You could be responsible to keep mitzvahs now. Like, why does he believe that they have the Amunah? Like they're only 12 and they're only 13. Like they're not exactly old people that we say, okay, now you could do mitzvahs and you could do, you're responsible. So what's going
They
on?
haven't been spoiled yet. They
Okay,
still
very interesting, because he said
innocent.
naturally as a
Nat-
child, if you're raised in a house that talks about Amunah, they don't turn around and go, what? You tell little kids, Hashem is here, Hashem is there. They're jumping around going, Hashem is here, Hashem is there. And they talk like that. Danili goes, Gam zu l'tova when the fish tank blew up. Right? Why did he do that? Because his parents do that. Because his, people who he knows does that. He goes to a school that teaches that. He doesn't say, you never hear a little kid when you say, okay, we're putting you to bed. Let's say Shema. You don't hear a little kid go, how come? Why are we saying Shema? Who's God? Like, you don't get that kind of Amunah. Like a kid looks at himself and he goes, I have parents. I have a mommy and a daddy. They created me and they take care of me. So somebody must be taking care of all of us. You say to the kid, you know what, Hashem is like your father. Oh, he doesn't go, what does that mean? Okay, so why is it as we get older, the Amunah sometimes starts to wear away? Okay, because life is hard. And now you got to fight for your Amunah. But if you sit at your kitchen table and go, oh my gosh, we davened all day, and you know what happened? Nothing. Hashem is nowhere. Where's God? If you talk like that, then what do you think is going to happen to your kids? Like, I'm being real. They're hearing all your cynical, bitterness, then they're going to turn cynical and bitter, and they're going to say, yeah, you're right, there is no God. You see what I'm saying?
It's the same thing like the Palestinians. They've taught like hate a Jew and hate. So just as the
That's an
bad, it's for
interesting
the good.
idea. Unfortunately, that's an interesting idea because when you're young, you're a sponge. You're a very like, you just absorb. That's really the truth. You're like innocently absorbing, right? So Hashem is saying, you're going to innocently absorb. Then when you're 12 and you're 13, we're going to put you through the ringer here, but you've already absorbed a lot. Right? The saddest thing is like in the secular world, the kid turns bar mitzvah, and what happens? If he was in a Jewish school, you pull him out for high school, and the rest of his life he ends up going, you know what I mean? Like it's so cuckoo, you know what I mean? Like it's just, you don't realize like, yeah, that was their innocence, but now you got to really feed it, and that's when we take it away. So here's what's going to be going on with this Gog Ma-Gog. And what the scariest part of this Gog Ma-Gog is that it won't be a fight just against the Jewish people. It will be a fight against Hashem. So it'll be Edom and Yishmael will be fighting. And when we go through the story, you'll see who wins, right? And then that winner is going to say, okay, now let's finish the job. Okay, now we got rid of, one of the enemies, right? Now there's two enemies left. Well, Hashem and his people, and then they will come after us. Do you see what goes on? But this war will, like they said, it came in 3 parts. The Chafetz Chaim said that this Gog Ma-Gog is 3 parts. We've already gone through 2 of them. What can I say but Baruch Hashem? So the Chafetz Chaim said World War I was the first part of Gog Ma-Gog. World War II is the second part of Gog Ma-Gog, and the third one is one that could be coming before Mashiach comes, right? Like we're hoping, we're davening, we're going to do tshuva, it's all going to be hunky-dory. That's the way we're looking at it. But if not, then know that there is a test like this, and know that your emunah is going to be extremely tested. Okay, so it's just important for us to know that. And in some ways, I think that's why we're going, like, if you look at the world, a lot of us have gone through a lot of big tests on emunah, even now. Do you know what I mean? Like in your own personal life, Hashem has given us a lot of really tough emunah tests. Yes or no? Yes. Everyone I'm looking at right now, not, there's not one of us who, Baruch Hashem, none of us have, we haven't missed our opportunity of tests. Okay? And Hashem should just say, that's enough. Okay? And, we've tried our best to really come out on the other side. Right. So it's not like we're not prepared. Like we have a little bit armor on us. Do you know what I mean? So let's just, like see exactly what's going to go through this. And again, this whole idea of the war is to really, finally kill the Yetzer Hara. You know what I mean? Like finally let evil be destroyed and to cleanse the world. Do you know what I mean? Like to be able to have that group of people who are willing to stick with Hashem. Do you know what I'm saying? It's almost like, when you have, you want to be part of something, like you in the Olympics, I'm sure that you have to go through a bunch of levels to finally be the person who gets to go to the Olympics. Right? True or false? I'm sure I'm right. Right. So that's kind of what's happening here. Like, the tests are to weed everyone out until we get to the people who really want to make that difference, right? Who really will put in all the skin in the game. Okay.
Are the tests about emunah?
Yes, they're all going to be about emunah, but like you have to see that the test will be about emunah. I mean, definitely. But there'll be incredible hardships that people will have to go through. Like it won't be it's not simple, and that's why there's great rabbis who said like, I want Mashiach, but I don't want to be in the generation that gets to see him. Okay, they're almost like I'll come back from the dead. I don't think, but I really want to be honest with you. I really feel like every one of us, like again, like what we said, everybody's own personal tests are their own war between good and bad. Like within your own life, right? You're fighting that all the time. So it's not, okay. So let me just see. All right. Okay. I just want to get to the place where I started here. Okay, we said that. All right. Okay. So just a very interesting chazal. It's just such an interesting chazal. Okay. So chazal is a Medrash Rabbah. It's just interesting. So it says that when Esav wanted to destroy Yaakov, he said to himself, you know what? I'm not going to be like Cain, who killed Hevel. Remember when Cain killed Hevel, right? In the beginning of time. So Adam, Rishon, and Chava, they have two children called Cain and Hevel, right? So Cain kills Hevel, right? And now he thinks he's going to inherit everything from his parents, right? But he said, he didn't realize his parents said, oh yeah, we're going to have another kid. Okay, so they had another kid called Chase. Okay, so Esav said, I'm not going to be dumb like, Cain was. I'm not going to kill Yaakov, right? While my father is still alive. So now we know what it was. So it's not so much that was so altruistic, I don't want to hurt Yitzchak. It was, I'm not going to kill him now because then we never know. Yitzchak can have another baby with Rivka. So no. So they said, I'll wait. So what happened? Until Yitzchak died, what happened? Yaakov gave birth to so many children, right? Yaakov gave birth to so many kids that it didn't matter that Yitzchak died. Yaakov still had so many people who could inherit the world, all right? Now, Paro said, I'm going to kill the Jewish people, and my way of killing them is I will kill the firstborns, right? Boys. I'll kill all the boys. Not I'll kill the firstborns. I'll kill all the boys. Sorry, I will kill all the boys of the Jewish people. Haman looked at Paro and said, now that's stupid. I'm going to just kill everybody all at once. Sorry. And then Gog will come. And Gog will say, I'll be even smarter than Haman, because in the end, who took Haman down? Hashem. So I will battle Hashem and the Jewish people. So that's who Gog is. And it says that Gog will gather all of the nations. So in the Torah, there's a concept of 70 nations. That's what we believe, that there's 70, I would call them root nations. Okay, 70 root nations of the world. And this Gog will go to these 70 root nations of the world and convince them that what we have to do is fight against Hashem and the Jewish people. And, you could see it, because there's a war against Hashem right now, that's for sure. There's nothing to talk about. And really, if you look at it, like when you're looking in the world that we're in right now, what I find very curious is that everybody is so into racial equality, and we're so worried about all the brown and black colored people, and we're so worried that everybody should be included, except who?
The Jewish people.
Right. Except for the Jewish people. Everybody can be an like Omar, like the whole squad, right? They are the most anti-Israel, anti-Jewish people, and they spew it loud and clear. It's not that they hide any of their Semitic feelings, right? They get away with nothing. Nobody punishes them. Nobody slaps them on the wrist. Everything's fine. It's just an interesting reality. So, like you could see roots of everything I'm talking about right now in front of us, right? Okay. So it says, though, Baruch Hashem, right, in the Navi, that, in the end, who will be the one who fights against this Gog and fights against these 70 nations? In the end, it will be Hashem himself. He will be on our team, and he will end up destroying them. But until that will happen, if we have not really done tshuva, and we have to really clean the world of evil, right, and of people who are not on the right team, right, then it's going to be a real test of Emunah, like you'll see. Okay, so Zechariah said that Hashem will fight against us. Like when we say like Hashem will fight against this Gog, what did we say? It will be like what happened in Mitzrayim. Okay, because really Paro said the same thing. Remember when Moshe goes, let my people go, and Paro says, really? Okay, like, who said I should let my people go, your people go? And he said, Hashem. And he said, who is this Hashem? I never even heard about him. I couldn't care less about him. He's nothing. Who is this Hashem, right? So this is an interesting idea. This idea could again repeat itself. And what does it say? It says that mamish plagues will come. Like there will be darkness. There will be like these huge pieces of hail. Like it's very interesting. This is what it says. This is what the Meforshim tell us. So they say like when in Egypt, right, when the hail was coming down, Paro came running to Moshe and he said, stop it, pray to your God and stop the hail and I'll let you go. Okay, so Hashem said, okay, and Moshe said, okay, will. And he prays, and guess what happens? The hail that already started coming down was frozen in time. Did you imagine? So they say at the end of days, it will come down again. There will be a plague of darkness. What happened in that plague of darkness the last time?
He asked them to stop it.
Yeah, but what happened in the plague?
Oh, they got rich.
They got rich, but what happened to the Jewish people that didn't want to go out?
Oh, they died.
They died.
80% stayed or
Yeah.
died.
Died. So that's what could repeat itself again. That's what could repeat itself. There'll be a terrible darkness. And it's very interesting because the way they talk about it, like they say, like the sun and the moon and the stars, like it'll all be like they won't really have the light. They won't have the ability to illuminate the way they usually do. And it was funny because I was thinking about the flags. Like, think about the flags. First of all, the Muslim world is a moon. It's a crescent moon, right? Like if you look on top of any of their mosques, there's always like a big, right? Like it's almost like a tower and then a moon. Okay, they have a crescent moon. If you look at China's flag, what's it covered in? Red, like the Communist Party of China. Stars, red. It's a red, which is like, you know, Edom is considered very bloody. It's red, right? And it has a whole bunch of stars. And then even the American flag is a bunch of stars. And even the Magen David is stars. Like, it's just interesting, like how it's saying like all these things will, because it could mean literally, but it could also mean figuratively, or it could mean both. Do you know what I mean? And it could be like if chas v'shalom, you know, nuclear bombs are released, it could be that it puts the world in darkness. You know what I mean? If that's, do you know what I'm trying to say? Like if it's because what they're saying that's unique about this war is that it affects the entire world. We called World War I and World War II world wars, but in all honesty, they were very contained in Europe, right? If we were really honest about it. But this one,
This will be.
This will be everywhere, like South Africa, Australia, like every part of the world, right? New Zealand, Iceland, like every part of the world will be effective, which makes sense because we're leading into, the world has changed, even in terms
Like
of the
COVID.
economy, right? Right?
Like COVID.
Yeah, like COVID. Excellent. Okay, Sharon. Okay. I'm like, where can I come up with an example? Okay, perfect. Okay, like COVID. Okay, so we could see. Okay, so let's see some of the other things that it says. In the end, like when everything will be pretty much destroyed, it says that the world will like be wasted and it will be like thorns will grow in places. It'll just be a very wasted time. Okay, and evil will befall those who did evil towards Hashem. Okay, so it's all going to be a consequence to what's going on. Why would we have to suffer? Like, you know, I'm saying the whole world will have to suffer, including Jews. Why are we suffering? Because suffering does a couple things. What does suffering do? Because like really, you can ask that every day.
Right.
It brings people together.
Okay, so suffering will bring people together. Like hopefully it'll bring the Jewish people together. Yeah, what else does it do? What does suffering do?
It makes you grow.
Yes, it makes you grow. It turns you to Hashem. Unfortunately, most people, when they're suffering, like when, you know, Chalila v'chas, if we were all in this, you know, everyone's going to be going, Daven, pray, we have to daven, we have to pray. You know what I mean? Like that's what's going to happen, right? That's what happens. And there is a concept that suffering is a cleansing. Okay, when you do a mitzvah, you get glued to Hashem. Okay, when you don't do a mitzvah, right? You get put apart and you put gak in between you and Hashem. Okay, so has anybody ever like had like sticky stuff okay, and you had to take it off? How do you have to take it off? You have to scrape it off. Okay, it doesn't come off. That's why Hashem does these things to, you know, sort of show you, right? You get a stain, you got to rub the stain. It just doesn't come off otherwise, right? And like you go look inside your washing machine. We'll see what it's doing. Okay, like everything's getting tumbled and schmumbled, and then it comes out clean. Okay, so this is what's going on here. So this would be part of it. Okay,
Gail, it also gets rid of the ego and brings people's humility.
Oh boy, so like, you know, in Yiddish, get gesucht, like 100% said well, 100%. It's true. So this is unfortunately, you know, why it would be. Okay. Let me just see. Okay, Cheskel and Zachariah, Gog, Ma-Gog. Okay. Okay, so we
Again,
said,
why would the good people have to suffer?
okay, so you know what? Because
It's not
I
a-
think
it's not a- I mean, they're good.
right.
It's not-
Because I think in the end, like in the end of it all, the good people are, it's a final test of Amuna. Like this is the biggest battleground end of history. You know what I'm saying? So you have to, and
they've
also,
given their Rimuna the whole time that they've
right, but this is going to be one more test. Do you know what I mean? One more test. And also, let's say in the world spectrum, okay, in the world spectrum, if everything was hunky-dory for people who did only what was good in this world, there wouldn't be a lot of free will choice. Like everybody would just go, we have to be an idiot, you know, like, let me just be a rabbi and live happily ever after. Do you know what I'm saying? So I think like, that's why they say like Hashem mixes it up here, right? And Amuna at the end is almost like, it's almost like the story of Avraham. Like when you look at the Akedah, that last test where he says, you know, bring up Yitzchak, like that's beyond crazy, you know, and it wasn't like Avraham didn't pass all his tests until then. Like it wasn't like he wasn't a good guy, but Hashem is saying like, to earn the Olam Haba that I'm about to give you, I'm about to give you eternity. It's one last big test. And that's kind of, do you see what I mean? What we could see coming. All right. Okay. Okay. So I told you, you need to know this because you don't want a pop quiz and you need to be able to really get it. Okay. So we said that this Gog, so Gog Ma-Gog, I want you to know, is not two fighting people. People always think that there's a war of this Gog nation against Ma-Gog nation. It's not. Gog is like a king, like some, like, and it's interesting, I'll tell you what the Meforshim say in a minute. So Gog is like a nation and like a king of a nation, and Ma-Gog is the nation he's from. It's Gog, Ma-Gog. Do you understand? That's what it is. Gog from Gog. All right, so that's what it means. So it's not that it's two countries that are fighting against each other. Okay, so now some people say like this in regards to this war, when it will take place, what's going to happen. So there's different Meforshim, okay, and I think these different Meforshim are they correspond to who we are. Okay, where we are on the spectrum. Where is the world on the spectrum? Is the world come to understand that there is a God? Is the world far away from God? Like all these different realities. Okay, so one says that Mashiach will come first. Okay, and this will be a big test, and then Gog will come. Okay, not only will Gog come, but he will be successful in killing the Mashiach ben Yosef, and that will be like the most ultimate. Okay, what does that bring us back to in history? Like, where do you see a tikkun for this in history? Where, like, imagine the Mashiach gets killed, and now what happens to us? Like, where do you see this kind of a concept in
Christianity.
Okay, so Christianity, no, yeah, that's true. But where did the Jewish people almost fail in this idea?
We had a false Messiah and we
Okay,
followed
we've had a
him.
false Messiah, but you know where this really, 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 really happened? If you go back to it, it's Chet HaEgel.
Hmm.
Okay,
The gold
right?
calf.
It's Chet HaEgel. You got the Torah, you have Moshe, you have everything, and you blow it. Okay, so you know what I mean? Like that would be very scary, right? What was it? The Yetzer Hara showed pictures of Moshe in a coffin. Like people started imagining, like, oh my gosh, she's left. We're all gonna die. You know what I mean? Do you see what I'm saying? So that you could see if Mashiach comes and then Gog comes, and then that will be very scary. Or Gog will come and then Mashiach will come, right? Or Mashiach will start the process and then Gog will come in the middle. Okay, so these are different scenarios, and those scenarios are going to change based on our behaviors and where we are. Okay, right, based on us. So it's interesting. There's a story, like it seems like the character of this man Gog, who is from Ma-Gog, his name is Amelus. Okay, so in the Navis and in the Chazal, they make reference to this person called Amelus, who's Gog. Okay, so Amelus equals Gog. He comes from the place that's called Ma-Gog. So there's a belief that the son of Yafas, you know, so when Noah had sons, he had Shem, Ham, and Yafes, right? So they believe that the son of Yafes is Gog. Okay, from Ma-Gog. Who do we say that is? They say it's Russia. That's interesting. Very interesting. Okay, so some say that it could be Russia. Other people say that Chizkiyahu, the king of the Jewish people, he was supposed to be the Mashiach. Chizkiyahu was supposed to save the Jewish people, keep the temple, keep everything. He was supposed to be the Mashiach. He failed, okay? He wasn't, he didn't do the right thing when it came to doing something with Hashem. He failed as his mission as Mashiach, and Sancheriv came and destroyed him. So they said, who was Sancheriv? He was Gog. Who is that? Iran.
Sancheriv was Iran?
From Iran. So they say, it's interesting. So it could be like a Gilgal, you know what I mean? It could be someone from Iran. Okay, so either one of these people, both of them have, if you would look at the world stage today, you would say they're both good candidates. Like, you're not looking at this going, that doesn't sound plausible. Like, you're looking at this going, whoa. Right? Okay, they both sound very plausible. Okay. Let me see.
But the term war is being used right throughout this scenario.
Yes,
It's a different kind of war, isn't it? It's a spiritual
physical
war.
Okay, so it's interesting. It's on all fronts. Okay, it's on all fronts. So it's definitely a spiritual war, because what do we see? That this Gog wants the end of the Jewish people and wants the end of Hashem. Okay, he wants to be the ruler of the entire world without anybody telling him what to do. So that's number one. But it will manifest itself physically. It will not just be a spiritual war. It will be both. Do you see what I mean? And that's what is not such an easy bit. Now, sometimes, listen carefully, the way Hashem works, which is very interesting, is sometimes Hashem takes the thing that hurts you to use it to cure you. So sometimes, like, you can get bitten by a snake, and do you know what saves you from the snake's venom? More of the snake's venom. Do you know what I mean? So sometimes it's very interesting. You will see, right? Yaakov, like when the boy, like, look at how everybody who was everybody's nemesis ended up turning out to be the person that saved them. So the brothers sold Yosef, right? So the brothers look like the worst people, but because they sold Yosef, what happened to Yosef? In the end of the story, he becomes right. He becomes like the second in command to Paro, the viceroy, right? So what looked like the evil brought him to his greatest success. Then when they come down and they see Yosef, who was the greatest nemesis and worst enemy of them, turns around and is the source of their salvation. Do you see what I mean? So you could look at this Gog guy, okay? What a terrible person. He's going to destroy the world. But on the other hand, he's going to bring the Mashiach. Do you see what's going? Like, so sometimes what we think is the most negative thing that's happened in our lives, like a lot of us know, you lose your job, but it brought you to a much better job. Do you know what I mean? Like, things that could have happened that were very negative could sometimes bring you to, an incredible sensitivity, and you could have a different role in life because of this negative thing. Do you know what I mean? It could bring you to a different place. So that's one thing that we have to, sort of think about it, right? Okay, good. So that's why Rabbi Katz, like, that's Rabbi Tatz's vort, and I think it's a beautiful vort. You know what I mean? Okay, now. Okay, so it's very interesting. Okay, so here's like the hard part of what could happen, okay? And here's where you might see the test, okay? So the Yalkut Haramim says, the nation of Israel, okay, so we'll go to the Arabs, which is kind of what you see now. And they will say, the temple area, that belongs to us. And they will say to the Arabs, you know what? Like, you can have all the gold, you can have all the silver. We'll give you so many things that are in Yerushalayim. We'll give them to you. You can have gold, you can have silver, but just leave us the temple, because this temple belongs to us. Okay? And so the Arabs will say, this is at the end of days, so listen up, because this is a little scary. So then the Arabs will say, really? The temple belongs to us, not to you. We'll both bring sacrifices, right? And we'll see who really deserves the temple. And what will happen, which will be very scary, is that the sacrifices that the Arabs make will be accepted and not the sacrifices that we make. And that, is like, what? You know what I mean? That's going to be like, what? But Hashem, you promised it to us. Like, what's going on here? And that, I think, will be a really very scary thing. That's a very, very scary thing, right? And it seems like after that, let me just see for a second. It seems like after that, it'll be like a big war. Do you know what I mean? And we will have to really hold on very, very tight. And we will be chased. Like it's like we're going to be chased out. Like it's going to be what? Like it doesn't make sense. Hashem accepted their sacrifice. Like what's going on? And it seems like Hashem will be chased away. Like it sounds like we'll have to go into the desert. It says we'll have to go into the desert. I don't know what that means. I don't know what that
It's a
means.
metaphor for something.
It must be a metaphor for something. And it sounds like for 45 days. And then meanwhile, it sounds like Gog will come against, the Arabs and Yushalayim. You know what I mean? And I think after the 45 days, we will be doing tshuva. There will be no other place for us to go. Like we will be so alone, right? And we'll like daven to Hashem, and then things will turn and things will get better. But there will be this test of where it look. I'm wondering what it is. I'm like, I don't. What does that mean? The Jewish people will sacrifice, and the Arabs will sacrifice, and Hashem will take their sacrifice. I'm not exactly sure what that means. Would it be a war? I can only think of how do you sacrifice, you know what I mean? Physically, how do you sacrifice today? We don't have korbanos, you know what I mean? The only thing I could think of is, what I mean, like it could be a point where it looks like we're losing, right? And we won't understand it. Like it'll be like really, like if you look at it in the history of the Jewish people so far in Eretz Yisrael, Hashem should just continue to save us. We always win the wars. Like, right? I don't think we've ever lost. That's,
Yom
I mean, I don't
Kippur
even
was hard, but we didn't lose.
We didn't lose. Like if you ever stop and you think about, how miraculous that in itself is. That's how you know Hashem is fighting for us. That's what it means. Like Hashem is our warrior. There's no doubt about it. But from this thing, I don't exactly get it. I don't know if it means in a spiritual sense. I don't know exactly what it means. But what
they sacrifice themselves.
Yeah, like I don't know, and they win. Like I don't know what that means. Does it mean that they get the Temple Mount back, like they get the Kotel?
I think we're supposed to lose the Temple Mount.
It could be that that's what it is.
And then
It could be that that's what it is. Like we lose the whole Kotel area, and that would be like, I'm not sure. But what do you know it means? It means something will happen that you will think could never happen. Like something that we believe, Hashem would only, he'd protect us. We're the ones who get the temple, and somehow Hashem will turn it. Do you know what I mean? And yes, it will turn back, and we will get at the end, we will win, but that will be that moment of, it's like
the final test.
Right. How can I say
Who
it?
held on? Who stayed faithful? Who stayed
Right.
who
Till the
had
very
honor?
end, like even to stay faithful, like even when it looks, do you know what I mean? Like Hashem has totally abandoned you. That's probably the hardest thing in any of our lives. Like whenever any of us are in a test, right? And we're just davening, like, please Hashem, like get it over with already. Like, I just want to see the happy ending. I just want to see the happy ending. And you still have to wait and wait and wait. You know what I mean? And then you think, okay, this is it. This is the shidduch. This is the job. This is the health. This is the this. And it still doesn't come. And sometimes it doesn't come. And you still have to say, you know what, Hashem? Gamzu l'tova, na 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 na.
It's still coming, just not yet.
Yeah. So that's so this is like, part of that reality. So we're going to stop here. Okay. And Emir Hashem, like, I hope you're okay with it. It's like, it's a little like, woo, like between Sunday and Monday, I don't know if we can walk around.
I don't know if you saw on the internet, there's this guy from very, very from Hasidic guy from, I don't know if he's from New York. He's somewhere in New York, Brooklyn. I'm not too sure where.
Mm-hmm.
And he says he's the new Mashiach. He's the Mashiach ben David.
Okay.
And he's performed so many miracles that they've actually taken, this is what they say, they've taken him to Eretz Yisrael, and he's doing all these miracles in front of the Kotel.
I don't know. As far as I know, the only way you would really know someone is Mashiach is they have to bring the Jewish people back to the land of Israel, and they have to be able to build the temple. So until I see that miracle, the rest of them are nice, but I don't know if it's the real deal. I wish I could say, yes, and I'm sure we all would wish it was the real deal. I don't know, until there'll be great Gedolim, who will tell me like, this is it. Then we'll know. But until then, like, we're all in a very desperate state. We have to be very careful. Do you know what I mean? This could be also one of those tests, right? Like when people are very desperate today, like nobody's an idiot to not realize like things are shaking and moving and that we're not 100% sure what's going to be tomorrow, right? So you're desperately looking for something, so we just have to be careful, right? But definitely could look it up. Is his name Gog? No, I'm joking. His name? No, it's going to be Mashiach ben Yosef. So
Yeah.
have to be Menachem ben Yosef. If his name is Menachem ben Yosef, then maybe I could believe it. Okay, all right. Okay, so time to say the thank you prayer. Right? Okay, so I'm going to stop the recording.